Transvaal, the white Afrikaners that have voted Mr. Botha's National Party into power for 40 years are worried now. Black violence, international isolation, the reforms that have nibbled away at the institutionalized superiority of their race have made many yearn for the old certainties of apartheid. The politicians of the right have played on that fear, their supporters swollen into a bandwagon Mr. Botha called an election to stop. The right is first in the field, picking candidates with hard images to fight President Botha's men. Foreign Minister Pick Botha is a prize target. To conservative Afrikaners, he ranks as a leading liberal, the man who will sell them out to the blacks. To fight him in his Johannesburg constituency, the Conservative Party has turned to the man the United Nations once called the Beast. Brigadier Roy Roos Swanepoel was the police chief in Soweto Township during the 1976 riots there. He had no hesitation in ordering his men to shoot live ammunition. "We'll use rubber bullets when they throw rubber bricks," he said. Last night, Conservative Party supporters who'd gathered to adopt him as their candidate found he hadn't changed his uncompromising views.
We will wipe out the communists, the ANC and the radicals in 6 months. And thereafter, we will help our neighbors to clean up their own countries, with or without their permission.
He started with a salute and the view that Mr. Botha's government was peopled with communists. Then he launched an attack on Archbishop Tutu, an old adversary.
I'm not looking for trouble, but if you want trouble, pick yourself a Fiomi and come along, Bishop. And the same thing that happened to you in the past will happen again, but this time, Bishop, they will carry you out feet first.
Analysts here believe 1 in 6 whites will support candidates like the Brigadier, but their votes will be split between right-wing parties that cannot agree to work together. Mr. Botha, it seems, was right to worry about the mood of Conservatives here, wrong to worry about the political consequences. This is Michael Burke for the 9 o'clock news in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Somewhere on the border, an anti-conscription, anti-war drama with particular relevance for tens of thousands of young white South Africans facing 2 years of compulsory military service.
Is this something you're prepared to die for, Doug?
No way.
Well, then how come you're here?
That's what many young South African recruits are asking themselves as they report for their call-up, taking leave of their families, only too well aware that serving South Africa can now mean active service in the townships. Over the last 2 years, army patrols like these have become a familiar sight on the streets of the black communities, and for most of the recruits, their first glimpse of life and death in the townships of South Africa.
Many of the conscripts have never visited a township in friendship. Their first visit is aboard an armoured vehicle from which they patrol the townships in a menacing manner. Young whites and blacks now regard each other as the enemy.
And according to anti-conscription activists, the number of young men failing to report for military service has risen from 1,600 in 1984 to more than 7,000 a year later, after the army entered the townships. Some still see the call-up as an obligation.
Because there's a lot of trouble going on. This country's got to be protected.
The ANC and the terrorists are they're making trouble and they need to be dealt with.
While others like Dr. Ivan Toms, who runs the clinic at Crossroads Squatter Camp, have had first-hand experience of the results of security force action in the townships.
You know, it's specifically because the SADF has been used to uphold apartheid, you know. And in Crossroads, in my daily work, one sees the viciousness of apartheid. One sees just how apartheid is oppressing people.
Over the last 12 months, a national campaign has been launched to end conscription in South Africa, and security police have in the past not hesitated to move publicly against its organisers. Some of them are still in detention. For Mike Phillips, a difficult choice, he's left his home and is now living in Zimbabwe to escape conscription.
I'm not necessarily a confirmed pacifist. I don't believe that the armed struggle is an incorrect method of gaining independence in South Africa, but certainly I didn't want to carry guns against the majority of the population or do any work that would aid that oppression that is taking place in South Africa.
Last month, South Africa's Army Chief took out a full-page advertisement assuring young recruits that the service was not out to break them or to demoralise them. Some recruits remain unconvinced and regard somewhere on the border as closer to reality.
Have some fun. Smash his face. Push his nose through his head. Then
Peter Sharp, News at 10 in Johannesburg.